This is true with the kids, and it's true with your team, your employees, your peers. It's like just true. It's humans, the way that they respond. It's just, what are you learning from applying these principles on the home front?
It's a hell of a lot harder than any other realm.
And what makes it harder?
It's just closer to other people. It's, you know, it's my kids. It's my wife. My wife knows what to say to get under my skin. My kids are carbon copies of me, and what they do is a reflection of me. It's that emotional connection and the ego in me, which makes it harder. And I always reflect on that when I go teach, as I remind people, like, hey, if you're going to try this at work, like I work with Echo, like it's easier to, you know, get along with him. But, you know, at home when things aren't going right, or to detach specifically. As I got married and as I had new kids or more kids, it was just a new perspective. I think detachment specifically was something that I thought I was always good at, being reserved and, you know, having a dad who was a cop, being very stoic. Like that's how I thought you should be. Marine Corps, being detached, you know, emotional decisions get people killed, ego-based decisions get people killed. That was always hit over and over and over again. As I joined Echelon Front, you know, I was always detaching, but I didn't have the word. And then you gave me the word. I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing. But when I had kids, it was just different. It's harder to detach. And my kids are so close, and we homeschool. And like literally last week, my 7-year-old dropped a gallon of purple paint on my black tile. And like in the moment, I'm just like, all the things I want to say and do. And I'm just like, he's 7. Like, he wants to help in his paint. It's not that big of a deal.
The weird thing is, so not only is there's these sort of pre-formatted relationship things that you have with your kids. So, you know, you care about your kids, and you know exactly what they should be doing. You know it. And you know what, Echo Charles, you're right. You're actually right. And if your kid was like, all right, here's the schedule, here's what we're doing, your kid could become the apex example, or the apex capability that they could meet them all. Like, we all know that. We could formulate the plan, and we're right. We're 100% right. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's a pre-programmed thing in our mind that we know that we're right, and we know what's best for our kids. There's also a pre-programmed thing in their head. And that thing doesn't always line up, you know. There's something about your kids. And look, there's something about your kids, and it's the same with your employees. It's the same with people. Like, if I bark orders at you, or I say like, hey, Cody, here's exactly how we're doing this, you're going to have psychological reactance, which is a real term that I learned. You're going to be like, oh, Jocko thinks he knows how to do this better than me. Oh, Jocko thinks he knows how to, you know, how to run the FTX better than I do. Okay, we'll see. And you're going to be negative, man. It's just what's going to happen. It's guaranteed to happen. It's guaranteed to happen. I have your best interests in mind, whether I'm talking to my daughter, who I'm like, oh, you want to be champion? Here's what you should do. I know. Bro, I've trained actual freaking champions, Echo Charles.
Yes, sir.
Straight up. Mm-hmm. By the way, let's just get real here. in the sports that we're talking about. Yeah. I have been down the promised road. I have trained the world champion. Right? I get it.
Yep. Know the deal.
Know the deal. 100%.
Yeah.
Now, let's say I had a daughter that wanted to be world champion in the same sport. I know exactly what to do. I literally know exactly what to do. Mm. I cannot impose that plan. It will not work. Mm. It will not work. Psychological reactance. I want my daughter to be world champion probably more than she does. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yes, sir.
Probably more than she does. And I know how to do it. Yeah. I know how to do it. I've walked that road. But I can't impose that plan on her. Well, look, when I was a SEAL platoon commander, dude, I was a very experienced SEAL at that time. When I was a task unit commander, I was a very experienced SEAL at that time, compared to a normal SEAL for sure, because I was a prior enlisted guy, because I had taught stuff and trained, I was done the whole thing. But luckily, I'd worked for Delta Charlie, who was way more experienced than we were when we were those young kids, and he wasn't like, all right, I know what to do. I literally know everything, and I'm not going to tell you what to do. So this idea of imposing your plan, and like you said, when you get to your family, dude, you know how to turn your son into the best football player, basketball player, baseball player, jiu-jitsu player, wrestler. Like, you know how to do it. We know how to do it. But it ain't gonna work. You cannot do that. That's a very difficult thing. Not only is our perception wrong, or our perception kind of locked in that we think we know everything, their perception is locked in that you don't. Their perception is locked in that you don't. If I can't tell my 10-year-old son where to put his hips on an arm lock in jiu-jitsu, if I can't tell my 10, which this happened, I was like, hey, dude, put your hips a little further on it. He's like, you don't need to do that. I'm like, okay, cool. We're done here. It's freaking 10. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 25 years at that point. Like, that's where we're at. That was such a good wake-up call because you cannot impose things on people. Now, look, can you occasionally get someone that's more open to it? Sure. Very, very rare. Almost never. It's almost never that you get someone that's like, their mind is just open, blank slate, write what you want to write. It's almost never. And if you do try and write stuff on there, they're going to freaking like bump your hand and scribble and erase it. It's going to be a problem. So yes, the fam situation.
It's real.
It's real.
I'll just speak on one thing that we're navigating right now. Since we homeschool, like we can kind of control curriculum. It's my kids call my wife the teacher and I'm the warden of the school.
Wait, they use the term
the warden. Well, we taught them what it means. But it's math, English, that stuff like that, and then periodically we throw stuff in there. And obviously working at Echelon front, like ownership. It's very hard to teach a 6, 7, 4, 2-year-old ownership, but the whole, when I mentioned getting arrested and with my dad and the truth piece, like being truthful is something that I'm navigating right now. And I think a lot of people, when they read the book Extreme Ownership, like ownership is one of the hardest tenets we have to overcome. Like, well, where does that start? It starts when you're a kid. And I get to see that in real time. When I watch my kid do something, he's like, no, that can just spilled by itself. Like, I literally watched you do it. And so navigating things like that. And, you know, I always ask questions at workshops or keynotes on like, whose kids, when they do something, do they fess up? Like, nobody raises their hand, but like, I have a leg up because I'm getting to this early, and I give my kids a lot of choices. I'm like, hey, I know what happened. Like, just tell me the truth. And they still fumble and mess up, but we're getting quicker to like them realizing that the truth is what I need to be doing. So that's what I'm trying to get in early because I want them to learn this habit, which is going to build into a tendency, which builds into who they are when they're 10. Like if I can teach my kids ownership by 10, I believe I'm setting them up for success. Like I don't want them to learn when I learn when it's 28 years old, like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. Like I want to help them out.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. And I've kind of been through it now because I only have one like quote kid left that's 15 years old. My other kids are grown people. But man, you look back and you think, I wonder if I made the right move right there. It's very interesting. And also I just got a new dog, by the way. Yeah. And, you know, so now I'm like just back deep in with the dog thing, right? Back deep in with all of it, the training and all that. And the way that you train a dog, like there's just similarities. Here's one. You can't, you know this one, because actually you might have taught me this one. The reward, you can't reward 100% of the time. You can only reward 80% of the time. So literally you tell your dog to sit like a puppy. You say sit, give him a treat. Say sit again, give him a treat. Say sit again, don't give him a treat. Say sit again, give him a treat. And that little bit of randomness, because you were talking about this with some kind of applications or something, right?
Yeah.
Or gambling or what? Applications.
Yeah,
apps.
it was apps and kind of doing that variable reward.
Variable reward.
Yeah.
Whether you're a human or a dog, you both respond better to variable reward. There has to be some element of surprise. The dopamine that you get from the surprise is as valuable as the reward itself. So you do the right thing and you don't get a reward. You do the right thing, you get a reward. You're excited. You get a reward. You're excited. You don't get a reward. Well, I'm going to try again. See if I can get the reward again. And that's what imprints the behavior. So as you look at the way kids, when they grow up, you're like, oh, I see some little characteristic. What did I do that made that characteristic exist in this human being right now? Maybe it was me, maybe it was a school teacher, maybe it was a friend, whatever. But what pattern of life, what lesson did that person, what used to be a kid, now is an adult and their behavior has been modified. It's behavior modification by school, by friends, by all this other stuff. And this is where they end up.
Another tip too, by the way, on the flip side of the variable reward is the opposite with punishment. So you got to punish every single time, 100% of the time.
Yep.
So consistent punishment is like, oh, in a dog's brain, kid's brain, whatever, they're going to be like, I know under all circumstances, not even consciously, it's already like instinct. It gets trained into your instinct where it's like, if I do something, 100%, that's like literally just the way the world works.
Yep.
So even if I do choose to do it, I know what's coming, you know? So a lot of times they just avoid it like naturally, you know? But if you do a variable punishment, it's kind of like the idea of maybe I can get away with it.
That's
gets
enticing too.
introduced.
That's as equally enticing. Like I might get away with it. That's kind of fun.
Kind of dope. Yeah.
Like, you know, you ever met someone, they're like, oh, when I was a kid, I shoplifted. But you're like, you were rich. And they're like, no, but it was, they kind of do it because they want the excitement of the whole jam.
It's like a dark variable reward, really. See what I'm saying? On the dark side, though. You got to watch out. The double whammy on that one. So, yeah, basically, if you're going to punish everybody or the people or the pets, keep it consistent.
True. And this is true with the kids. And it's true with your team, your employees, your peers. It's like just true. It's humans. The way that they respond. It's just very, very predictable. And look, does everyone have their own little elements? Yep. Everyone's got their own little thing. Cody might be a little bit more resistant to pain than Echo or whatever. You know, Echo might respond a little bit better to this thing than something else. And that's why I gotta keep that in mind. But broadly speaking, the principles, like, they're not going to change. You have to maybe modulate them a little bit in one way or the other, but they remain. And I've seen this now for years and years and years. And every time you think like, oh, maybe it's not, maybe this time will be different. It's not going to be different. It's not going to be different. It's just not going to be different. It's so predictable. Predictable within the, you know, degrees of variation, but it's predictable. So that's what we're doing. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hey, if you want to get into these a little bit deeper, or you want to talk to us directly, you go to extremeownership.com. You can join our online leadership academy. We talk about this stuff. This stuff is what we live for. And in the meantime, thank you for listening to us. Now go lead.